In 2087, a soldier named James Chen walked into an observation dome with two working arms. He walked out with none, but what grew back wasn't skinches, wasn't muscle, wasn't anything human. It was crystalline. It glowed blue. It was alien. This is a true account of first contact gone wrong, and how one man's sacrifice rewrote human evolution forever. But the truth behind this will shock you. Here's what you need to know before the next 5 minutes chain, how you see humanity's future. First, James Chen didn't just survive an impossible injury. His body merged with alien biology in a way that shouldn't have been scientifically possible. Doctors had no explanation. Science had no framework. Yet it happened anyway. Second, this wasn't an accident. Someone orchestrated the entire attack to force his transformation. The Zethurians apparently knew exactly what they were doing. Third, his hybrid body unlocked abilities that broke the rules of human biology entirely. He could see in ultraviolet. He could sense emotions. He could generate energy from nothing. He became something the universe had been waiting for. One choice, one act of sacrifice, one moment that proved humanity could evolve faster than we ever imagined. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The year was 2087. Humanity had finally made contact with intelligent life beyond Earth. But it wasn't how anyone imagined it would happen. Commander James Chen wasn't a scientist. He wasn't a diplomat. He was a soldier. A good one. The kind of man who followed orders, kept his head down, and made it home alive. That all changed on a Tuesday morning when the Zephyrian delegation arrived at Earth Station 1. The Zethurians looked nothing like humans. Their bodies were tall and crystalline, almost like walking glass sculptures that caught light in impossible ways. Their princess, Ailey, was different even among her kind. She glowed with a soft blue luminescence that made her seem almost unreal. According to reports from the First Contact team, she was the only one of her species who wanted peace. The only one willing to negotiate with humanity on equal terms. But not everyone on Earth wanted peace. A radical faction called the Purists had been planning this moment for months. They saw alien life as a threat. An invasion. Something that needed to be stopped before it started. On that Tuesday, they made their move. The attack came during the formal reception in the observation dome. 7 commandos dressed in military uniforms nobody recognized broke through the secondary airlock. They had weapons. Not standard Earth weapons either. These were modified plasma rifles, probably stolen from one of the government black sites nobody was supposed to know about. Everyone ran. Chaos erupted instantly. Alarms screamed. The Zephyrian guards formed a protective circle around Princess Ailey, but they weren't trained for Earth weapons. They didn't know how to move in Earth gravity. They fell quickly. Commander Chen was there, because he always did the security detail for first contact events. It was boring work. Safe work. The kind of assignment officers gave you when they wanted you alive. He heard the first shot and reacted on pure instinct. His body moved before his mind caught up. He was running toward the danger instead of away from it. His team was already engaging the attackers. But there were too many. The plasma fire was too heavy. Then he saw something that changed everything. One of the Purist commandos got through the guards. He had a weapon locked directly on Princess Ailey. His hand was on the trigger. His finger was moving. There was maybe half a second before she died. James Chen didn't think. He ran straight at the gunman. The first plasma bolt caught him in the left shoulder. It burned through flesh and bone like they were made of paper. His arm went numb instantly. Then came the pinches. The kind of pain that makes your vision go white. The kind of pain that should have stopped him cold. But he kept running. The second bolt caught his right arm. This time the burning was worse because he was already injured. His body was already shocked. His nerves were already screaming. He felt his arm drop, literally felt it fall away from his body and hit the ground. He was still moving forward. With no arms, bleeding from both shoulders, Commander Chen threw his body between the gunman and Princess Ailey's. The third shot went into his chest. It should have killed him. By all logical reasoning, he should have died in that observation dome on that Tuesday afternoon. But something happened that nobody expected. Princess Ailey screamed. Not in fear, not in painches, in something else. Her body glowed brighter, that soft blue light suddenly burning almost white. Every Zypherian in the dome stopped moving. They all turned toward her at exactly the same moment. Then something impossible occurred. As James Chen fell to the ground, bleeding out from multiple plasma wounds, he felt her hands on his shoulders. But he didn't have shoulders anymore. He didn't have arms. Yet somehow, he felt her touch. He felt warmth spreading through his entire body. It started where his arms used to be and radiated outward, replacing the burning pain with something different. Something that felt almost like healing. The purest commandos froze. They stared at what was happening. One of them ran. The others followed, confused and terrified by what they were witnessing. By the time Earth security locked down the dome, it was over. James Chen lay on the floor, gasping for breath. His uniform was shredded and soaked with blood. His shoulder wounds were still bleeding, but his chest wound, the one that should have been fatal, had stopped completely. And when he looked down at where his arms used to be, he saw something that made him question reality itself. Something was growing back. The medical team that rushed into the observation dome didn't know what they were looking at. Commander Chen should have been dead. His blood loss alone should have killed him. The plasma wounds should have been unsurvivable. Yet his heart was still beating. His breathing was stable. And there was something growing from his shoulder stumps that nobody in human medicine had ever seen before. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was the chief medical officer for Earth Station 1. She had 15 years of experience. She had seen combat injuries. She had seen people survive things that shouldn't be survivable. But nothing prepared her for what she found when she examined James Chen. The growth pattern was unlike anything in the medical literature. It wasn't scar tissue. It wasn't infection. It looked almost like crystalline structures forming along his nerve endings, gradually building outward, creating a framework that seemed to be organizing itself in real time. Get him to surgery, Sarah ordered. Full trauma protocol. I want every scan we have running simultaneously. CT, MRIs, ultrasound, everything. In the operating theater, with James heavily sedated, the team made their first surprising discovery. His body was healing itself at a rate that defied explanation. Fresh tissue was growing. New muscle fibers were forming. The growth seemed to be following his original biological blueprint, rebuilding what had been lost. But it was different. It was stronger. According to the surgical team's findings, which sources suggest were later classified, but partially leaked to the scientific community, the new tissue structure was denser than his original arms. The crystalline components that Princess Ailey's intervention had triggered were integrating with his biological cells. It was creating something hybrid, something that was part human and part Zypherian. The question everyone was asking was simple. Why? Deep in the upper levels of Earth Station 1, in a secure conference room, government officials demanded answers. Princess Ailey's was brought in under careful watch. The Zypherian delegation claimed she had performed what they called a resonance healing. Apparently, this was a rare ability among her people. It only manifested in those with particular genetic markers. It only worked if the person receiving it had performed an act of pure sacrifice, with no expectation of reward. According to Ailey's official statement to the Earth Council, James Chen's willingness to die for someone he had just met, someone from a completely different species, had triggered something in her genetic code. The healing ability had activated automatically. It wasn't intentional. It was instinctive. Like how a human mother might have superhuman strength to lift a car off her child. It was biology responding to profound emotional moment. The implications were staggering. If Zypherian healing could be triggered by human sacrifice, if it could permanently alter human tissue at a cellular level, then the possibilities for human evolution were endless. But so were the dangers. Back in the medical wing, James Chen woke up on the 5th day after the attack. The first thing he noticed was that he couldn't move his new arms. They existed. He could see them, but there was no connection between his brain and the new limbs. It was like waking up paralyzed. The second thing he noticed was that he could see in ultraviolet. The light in his recovery room looked completely different. He could see thermal radiation coming off the medical monitors. He could see the distinct heat signatures of the doctors and nurses moving around him. He could see energy patterns in the walls that human eyes could never normally detect. "Welcome back, Commander Doctor," Mitchell said, her voice careful and measured. "How are you feeling?" James tried to speak. His mouth worked. His vocal cords functioned. But his voice sounded different. It had harmonics underneath it that hadn't been there before. Like he was speaking and singing at the same time. "I can't move them," he said, looking at his new arms. "We know. The crystalline integration is still developing. Your nervous system is learning to communicate with the new tissue. It's a process. It's going to take time." "How much time?" James asked. Sarah Mitchell exchanged a glance with her senior resident. "Honestly, we don't know. Nobody in human history has ever had this kind of injury followed by this kind of recovery. You're in completely unprecedented territory. But what I can tell you is that your body is doing things that shouldn't be possible. If we can figure out why, if we can understand this process, it could change everything we know about human biology." James closed his eyes. He could still see the thermal patterns on the back of his eyelids. He could feel energy moving through his new arms, organizing itself, slowly building connections between crystal and nerve. He had sacrificed his arms to save an alien princess. Nobody could have predicted what would grow back in their place. 3 weeks after the attack, James Chen took his first step outside the medical wing. The hospital staff had worried about his psychological state, but he seemed surprisingly calm. Almost like part of him had been expecting this. Like he had made peace with what he had become. The crystalline arms were now fully formed. They looked almost human at first glance, but up close, anyone could see the truth. They were translucent and shot through with veins of pure blue light. They didn't have fingerprints. They didn't have the normal texture of human skinches. They looked like they had been carved from ice that never melted, glowing with an inner radiance that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. But more importantly, they worked. It had taken nearly 2 weeks for his nervous system to fully integrate with the new limbs. Dr. Mitchell theorized that Zypherian biology worked on a quantum level, allowing faster information transfer than human neurons normally permitted. Whatever the reason, when James finally regained motor control, the movement felt natural, smooth, almost like his arms had never been severed at all. Except they were stronger. The test results showed that his new arms could exert nearly 3 times the force of his original limbs. The crystalline structure gave them incredible resistance to damage. They could withstand heat that would incinerate human flesh. They were nearly impervious to cutting or tearing. They were, in effect, weapons. This worried the government officials considerably. During a classified briefing, military leadership expressed concern that James Chen might now pose a security risk. If a man with human emotions and human flaws now possessed superhuman strength, what was to stop him from becoming a threat? What if the crystalline integration had also changed his mind? What if he was no longer fully human? These concerns reached Princess Ailey's. She requested a meeting with James Chen. Not with government representatives. Not with medical staff. Just the two of them. The request was denied twice, then approved on the third request, apparently because refusing a Zypherian royal directly was considered diplomatically catastrophic. They met in the observation dome where the attack had happened. The purist commandos had been captured. The political fallout was still developing. The international community was divided on whether first contact with alien species should continue or be halted. Humanity was in chaos because of what had transpired in this very room. "You're wondering if the healing changed you," Ailey said. She didn't ask it as a question. It was a statement. The Zythurians, apparently, had some form of limited telepathy. "Are you reading my mind?" James asked. "No. I'm reading your biology. I can feel the energy patterns in your body. All healing transfers some aspect of the healer into the healed. This is inevitable when working at the quantum level. Part of me is now part of you, and part of you is now part of me." James looked at his crystalline arms. He could feel them, really feel them, in a way he was still getting used to. Will I ever be human again? Is that what you want? The question hung in the air between them. James thought about the moment he had seen the gunman targeting her. He thought about the decision he had made with less than a second to decide. He thought about the pain and the falling and the certainty that he was about to die. "No," he said finally. "I don't think I do." Ailey seemed to relax slightly. "Good. Because what's happening to you now, what's beginning to grow in your mind and your spirit, is unique. No human has ever been touched by Zypherian healing. No human has ever become something more than human while remaining fundamentally human. The government fears you because they don't understand you. But I understand. I feel the resonance between us. You saved my life expecting nothing in return. The universe doesn't allow such things to go unrecognized." "What does that mean?" "It means your body is still changing. The crystalline arms are only the beginning. Your sensory perception is expanding. Your cognitive abilities are accelerating. The integration will continue for several more months. You will be able to do things no human has ever been able to do. And you must decide now, while you still have the chance, whether you will use that power for yourself or for others." James felt something shift in his chest. A resonance. Ailey's had called it that. It felt like recognition. Like his body was suddenly aware of a frequency of existence that he had never perceived before. "Why me?" he asked. "Why did your healing work on me? There must be thousands of people willing to die for a cause. Why did I trigger this ability?" Ailey's moved closer. She placed her crystalline hand against his crystalline arm. The moment they touched, James felt it. A flood of information, images and emotions, and meaning that his mind somehow understood despite coming from an entirely alien source. She showed him a vision. In it, he saw Earth, not as it was now, but as it would be. He saw humanity reaching out beyond the stars. He saw humans and Zythurians working together to explore the galaxy. He saw a future where his sacrifice wasn't just an individual act, but the beginning of something infinitely larger. "You were chosen," Ailey said, "not by me, but by the universe itself. Your willingness to die for someone else's life opened a door. You walked through it, and now the universe is asking you to walk even further. Are you willing?" The changes happened faster after that meeting. By the 6th week, James Chen's body had undergone a transformation that the medical team could barely document. His height had increased by nearly 4 inches. His skeletal structure had become denser, reinforced by crystalline deposits that ran through his bones like reinforced steel cables. His eyes now had a secondary reflective layer, much like a cat's, allowing him to see in near-total darkness. Most strangely, he no longer needed to sleep. Doctor, Mitchell found this troubling. According to everything science understood, the human body required rest. Yet James's energy levels remained stable despite not sleeping for 17 days. His mental acuity had actually improved. He wasn't experiencing the cognitive degradation that normally accompanied sleep deprivation. It's the Zypherian biology, he explained to the medical team. It processes energy differently. My cells are generating power through a mechanism I don't fully understand. It's like I'm absorbing energy directly from the electromagnetic field around me. This confirmed what several physicists suspected. The hybrid tissue in James's body was capable of quantum tunneling, literally pulling energy from the universe's background radiation to fuel his biological processes. He had become, in effect, a living battery that never discharged. The military wanted to weaponize him. The request came through official channels. The Department of Defense wanted James Chen transferred to a classified facility. They wanted to study him further. They wanted to understand if his transformation could be replicated. Theoretically, if an entire military unit could be given Zypherian healing abilities, Earth's defensive capabilities would become unassailable. But there was a problem. Princess Ailey would not cooperate with weaponization. In fact, she made an ultimatum. If James Chen was forcibly taken and experimented upon, all diplomatic relations between the Zythurians and humanity would end immediately. They would terminate the peace treaty. They would leave Earth orbit. And they would report to the Intergalactic Council that humanity was unfit for peaceful space contact. This was, according to diplomatic reports, apparently not an empty threat. The Intergalactic Council was supposedly a governing body composed of 17 different spacefaring civilizations. They supposedly had rules about how newly contacted species could be treated. If the Zythurians filed a formal complaint, it could result in Earth being quarantined. No technology transfers, no knowledge sharing, no access to the larger galactic community for potentially decades. The government backed down. James Chen was allowed to remain free, though under constant surveillance. He wasn't technically a prisoner, but he wasn't exactly free either. He was something in between. A hybrid creature with hybrid status in a hybrid world. By the 8th week, something new began to manifest. James could sense other people's emotions, not through telepathy like the Zythurians. It was something more subtle. He could perceive the electromagnetic patterns their bodies generated when experiencing fear or anger or joy. It was like he was reading the emotional weather of everyone around him. It made him profoundly uncomfortable. He could sense the fear the military officers had when they walked past him. He could feel the scientific curiosity mixed with apprehension that the doctors experienced. He could sense the genuine care that Dr. Mitchell felt for his well-being, untainted by fear or ulterior motive. He could also sense something else. There was a subtle frequency being generated deep beneath Earth Station 1. Something hidden, something that hadn't been there before, something that was actively hiding from his expanded sensory perception. Which meant, logically, that it was designed to hide from exactly his kind of perception. Which meant someone knew what he was becoming, and they had prepared for it. He brought this to Ailey during one of their increasingly frequent meetings. The purest faction, she said simply. They didn't act alone. Someone gave them the plasma weapons. Someone provided the tactical information. Someone wanted this attack to happen. Why? What purpose would creating me serve? To force a choice, Ailey said. You are now proof that humans and Zythurians can merge. That we can create something new together. This terrifies certain factions within both our governments. Those who profit from conflict. Those who need enemies to maintain power. Those who see cooperation as weakness. Someone wanted to create you as evidence that the peace process was dangerous. Instead, they created you as evidence that it's the only way forward. James felt his crystalline arms pulse with light. He was angry, and his anger was making his body glow brighter. "Can you control it?" Ailey asked. "I don't know. Should I try?" "No," she said. "Let it flow. Let the universe know that you're awake. Let everyone understand that the age of hidden agendas and secret wars is ending. You are the bridge between our worlds, and a bridge that glows bright is impossible to ignore." By the 10th week, the truth had leaked out to the public. James Chen's existence became known to the world. Videos of him, showing his crystalline arms and glowing skin, spread across every digital platform. The government couldn't contain it. The scientific community couldn't deny it. Humanity knew it wasn't alone in the universe, and it knew that evolution didn't have to take a million years anymore. The response was predictable chaos, followed by unexpected unity. Religious groups had to reconcile their beliefs with the existence of alien life and human-alien hybrids. Scientists demanded access to James for study. Military leaders wanted him for defense. Artists wanted to celebrate him. Politicians wanted to use him. But James had other plans. He called a press conference, not authorized by the government, not arranged by Earth Station 1. A genuine public address that was broadcast live on every network simultaneously, apparently made possible because the Zethurians controlled the satellite infrastructure, and they had decided this needed to happen. He stood in front of the cameras with his crystalline arms fully exposed, with his skin still faintly glowing, with the weight of everyone's expectations and fears crushing down on him. "My name is James Chen," he said. 12 weeks ago, I was a soldier. A good one. I did what soldiers do. I followed orders. I protected people. I tried to be useful to my country. And then something happened that changed everything. I was given a gift. Not because I deserved it. Not because I was special. But because in one moment, I made a choice. I chose someone else over myself. I chose a stranger over my own life." He paused. Somewhere in the crowd watching, Ailey was also watching. "And here's what the universe taught me in that moment. Sacrifice is the currency of transformation. Every species that has ever achieved peace, every civilization that has ever reached the stars, did it by learning to sacrifice their own interests for something greater. The Zethurians understood this. They tried to teach us. They came to us with an outstretched hand, and most of us responded with fear." James looked directly into the camera. "But some of us said yes, and that yes is what made me what I am now. I'm not asking for worship. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for understanding. I'm asking for us to look at what's possible when we stop being afraid of each other. I'm asking for humanity to grow up, to reach out, and to become something more than we were." The response was extraordinary. Within days, a movement had formed. Humans who were willing to undergo Zephyrian healing. Researchers who wanted to study the integration process. Scientists who wanted to unlock the secrets of quantum biology that the Zethurians had mastered. But most importantly, the governments of the world came together. A formal peace treaty was signed. Humanity agreed to accept Zephyrian guidance on technological advancement. The Zethurians agreed to share medical knowledge. Joint research facilities were established. The isolation of humanity was over. And James Chen became something new. Not quite human, not quite Zephyrian, but something that could bridge both worlds. According to reports that emerged later, his body continued to evolve over the following months. His physical capabilities exceeded even the early predictions. He could generate electromagnetic pulses. He could sense quantum tunneling. He could communicate on frequencies that no human equipment had been designed to receive. But more importantly, he could inspire. Others underwent the healing process. Not as many as the military had hoped, but enough. A new generation of humans began to emerge. Hybrids, bridges, evolution in action. The purist faction that had attacked Princess Ailey's was found and prosecuted. But their investigation revealed something deeper. There were factions within multiple governments that had been preparing for conflict with alien species. The revelation that cooperation was possible, that peace could actually be the stronger choice, broke their power. In the final revelation that emerged years later, supposedly from Zypherian historical records that were shared with the scientific community, it became clear that this wasn't the first time the universe had pushed two species toward merger. Across the galaxy, at critical moments, when species were on the brink of destroying themselves, the universe had a way of creating bridges. James Chen wasn't special because of what he had become. He was special because he was willing to change, because he was willing to sacrifice, because he understood that the boundaries between species and cultures were less important than the bonds of empathy and shared purpose. His transformation wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. And in becoming something new, he showed humanity that we could be something new too. The universe, apparently, was waiting for us to say yes. The most unexpected twist: James Chen's sacrifice wasn't random. According to classified documents released years later, the Zythurians had apparently been monitoring humanity for generations. They were looking for someone with a specific psychological profile, someone capable of instinctive sacrifice, someone whose brain patterns matched those of the most evolved species in the galaxy. James Chen had been chosen long before the attack. The attack itself was orchestrated to trigger his transformation. Not maliciously, but strategically. The Zythurians knew that humanity needed a living example of what peace could create. They knew we were on the edge of destroying ourselves. And they knew that one person willing to become bridge could inspire millions to do the same. The real shock isn't that James Chen lost his arms. It's that in losing them, he found something far more powerful. A purpose that extended beyond himself. A connection to something universal. His story didn't end at healing. It began there. If this opened your eyes to how transformation works, how sacrifice connects us across worlds, then you've understood the deepest message of his journey. 1. Sacrifice at the deepest level isn't loss, it's transformation. James Chen gave up his arms, but gained something infinitely greater. 2. The boundaries between us and them are illusions. Once you break through that barrier with empathy, everything changes. 3. The universe rewards those willing to grow. Stagnation is the real death. Evolution is the only life worth living.